It's a gorgeous South Florida morning here at the Palm Beach International. Perfect setting to test out the new Cooper Zeon RS3 G1 tires.
It's a pretty brave move to put these tires on straight-up race cars.
The race truck is the perfect scenario for this particular tire.
All day they were great, super predictable on the breakaway.
The tires, they seem like they have a lot of grip. You'll get a lot of use out of the tires.
For 15 seasons, the Castrol Toyota Racing Series has led the way in New Zealand motorsport. With 170 drivers and 276 races so far, the graduates have made their mark in international motor racing. This is the pathway for the world's young drivers. And this series hits the racetracks of New Zealand for 5 weeks every year on the quest to find the next world champion.
Victorious at Mid-Ohio. Smart coming through that corner. Harrison Scott across the Artworks. Huge wreck. Good jump for Pato O'Ward as he'll take the lead.
For 15 seasons, the Castrol Toyota Racing Series has led the way in New Zealand motorsport. With 170 drivers and 276 races so far, the graduates have made their mark in international motor racing. This is the pathway for the world's young drivers. And this series hits the racetracks of New Zealand for 5 weeks every year on the quest to find the next world champion.
It's a gorgeous South Florida morning here at the Palm Beach International Raceway. The perfect setting to test out the new Cooper Zeon RS3 G1 tires.
It's a pretty brave move to put these tires on straight-up race cars.
The race truck is the perfect scenario for this particular tire.
All day they were great, super predictable on the breakaway.
The tires, they seem like they have a lot of grip. You'll get a lot of use out of the tires.
hard coming through that corner. Parker Thompson, Kyle Kirkwood, 1-2, great start. We're underway. 3-3. It's a sweep, back-to-back gap.
Road to Indy Race Recap.
The Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires made its lone trip north of the border on the July 12th to 14th weekend to the beautiful lakeside city of Toronto and the challenging street circuit of Exhibition Place. After shaking off the rust at Road America at the end of June, Aaron Telitz returned to the seat of his number 4 Belardi Auto Racing Dallara, and he was immediately on pace to begin the Indy Lights weekend battle. The Road to Indy veteran set a new Indy Lights track record on the Toronto street circuit, qualifying for race number 1, and followed up with a dominant victory on Saturday afternoon. Andretti Autosport's Oliver Askew arrived in Toronto as the point leader, and he was also quick out of the gate, finishing second to Telitz in the opening race of the doubleheader. Sunday morning for race 2 was paced by Askew, but Telitz was again on the move at the green flag, aiming an aggressive move to the inside of turn 1 to assume the lead. Midway through the race, VK attempted to lunge for the lead heading into turn number 3 at the end of the Lakeshore Boulevard, but he could not make the turn and ended up in the tire barrier. Telitz was blocked from making the turn in the process, and he too made contact. This altercation opened the door for Askew to emerge as the leader, and he would go on to score his 4th win of the season to take a 25-point lead to Mid-Ohio in 2 weeks. The challenging Turn 11 caught out a number of Road to Indy drivers throughout the weekend. RP Motorsports' Kyle Kirkwood avoided these issues to sweep both Indy Pro 2000 qualifying session to start each race from the pole. On the run down to Turn 1 to start the first race on Saturday, Exclusive Autosports' Daniel Frost leveraged his P3 starting spot to make a decisive move down the inside of Kirkwood to take over the lead. Frost took advantage of the opportunity and pulled away to the lead until the full course yellow flew for the hard contact by De Oliveira in Turn 11. But on both restarts, Frost handled his challengers and was rewarded with his 2nd win of the year. Point leader Rasmus Lint of Juncos Racing was strong all weekend. He finished 2nd in race 1 to extend his point lead over Parker Thompson, who rounded out the podium in his Able Motorsports entry. Kirkwood came back on Sunday, having learned from his Saturday start to lead green to checker for his 3rd win in the last 4 events. The Cooper Tires USF 2000 Championship saw a pair of new race winners in Toronto, as both Darren Keene and Christian Rasmussen notched their first Road to Indy victories. Keene emerged from a hard-fought battle with Rasmussen and Hunter McElroy on Saturday to record his long-awaited first victory, and Keene came back on Sunday looking for more, starting from pole. Rasmussen joined Keene on the front row for the 2nd straight race, and this time, the Jay Howard driver development pilot was the man to beat. The Danish driver did not put a wheel wrong, letting the fight take place in his rearview mirrors. Keene capped off his Toronto weekend with a crucial 2nd place finish. With another enjoyable trip to Canada now in the history books, the Road to Indy Caravan will now return to the United States, which will take the teams and drivers to the popular Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course on the July 26th to 28 weekend. Victorious at Mid-Ohio. It's hard coming through that corner.
The temperature is one of the main ones, of course, but the Cooper Tire does a really good job. I mean, we see consistency over the whole session. I know when I was watching the live timing in the practice session this morning, a lot of drivers were actually putting in their quick times around lap 14, and then after that, they were staying within 2/10 of that time. So, I mean, I'm not sure what they're doing. They might have been doing a race run, but, for example, usually if it's pretty warm, you're going to be seeing the quick times straight away on the new tire in the first few laps, but they certainly do hold in. And for instance, if you maybe made a few mistakes in your flying laps, or you might have caught a bit of traffic, there still is the opportunity to still go a little bit better towards the end of the session.
Sure.
So again, joining us here in the booth, Cameron Shields from Toowoomba, Australia, a driver who has run the entire season thus far, kind of came up a little bit short on budget to be able to get onto the track here at Mid-Ohio. They're going to work to get themselves back on track for the final 2 rounds of the series in Portland and at Laguna Seca. Don't worry, at the end of this session, if you're following on the Road to Indy TV app or around the racetrack and you feel like you want to support a young driver, we're going to make sure we get you all his social media accounts. You'll be able to follow Cameron online, and of course you're always able to connect through a direct message on any of the platforms that we'll talk to you about, because obviously a young driver, very talented, already a winner this year at the Lucas Oil Raceway, in dire need of some support and partnership moving forward.
Cameron, was that your first oval race?
Yes, it was my first oval race, so it was certainly quite an experience that was. I mean, it was very different. It's a very different approach you take as a driving style, the way you set the car up, how you work with the engineer. I mean, I thought it was terrific. You get a lot of track time. It's a 20-second lap, so you can pump out laps super quick, and it just really sped up our testing process. I mean, at the beginning of our series test there, we certainly weren't the quickest, I can tell you that now. I think we left maybe 13th the end of that day, but through that week, we sat down, we made a really strong plan, and we made a number of changes, and we came back that race weekend right at the front straight away and continued to improve. So I thought it was terrific. I really enjoyed racing on the oval. I really hope I can get back and do some more ovals.
Well, there's another guy from Toowoomba that's pretty good on the ovals too. Will Power didn't like it when he got here, but he's become quite proficient at it, if I'm not mistaken. Now, the interesting thing about it as well is that in the race itself for Cameron, he started on the outside of the front row. I was actually calling Kaminsky on the pole. He was able to get a better run side by side, was able to take the lead, and then had to kind of defend as well from a couple of restarts. Did a great job there. But now let's start looking at it, because we are on track now for what will be a 20-minute session for the drivers in this USF 2000 championship. We'll follow this right up with qualifying for Indy Lights at 2:30. Nick Yeoman and the crew at IndyCar Radio will take over the play-by-play for that one. Again, waiting for the drivers just to start rolling around here. The track record set a number of years ago, back in the old Van Diemen days, back in 2012, Matthew Brabham was the quick driver there, 120.250. That time has stood for quite a while, John. I don't know if it's going to drop here, though.
Don't know. And Matt Brabham, of course, is here in a super truck this weekend.
Yeah, that's right.
So he's still getting his hand in here at Mid-Ohio this weekend. Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna eclipse that. It was a different car, different tires, different era. Whether we'll get close to that time. Eventually, we'll certainly get there. But I don't know if this is the weekend or not. I'll be real curious to see what these new tires bring us time-wise.
Most definitely
in this session.
Yeah, and again, as Cameron said, we don't expect drivers to pit now midway through. Only a 20-minute session. When you try to pit midway through, you lose so much time because you have to. Obviously, we don't have 7-second IndyCar pit stops here. It takes a little while to get the stop made and done. Back out on the racetrack, you have to do the full out lap. It takes a while to really come back onto the clock. So again, just getting going, but 4 minutes into a 20-minute session. Remember, a 121.42 fast lap for Hunter McElroy, P1, in the practice session this morning. He now hasn't even yet set his fast time. Christian Rasmussen was second this morning. He's coming off a big win in Toronto, round number 2 of that doubleheader north of the border. Yuvan Sundaramurthy, who made his debut here last year for Exclusive Autosport, had a couple of good finishes, just staying out of trouble and learning the racetrack, learning the car. P3 this morning. Very, very stark contrast to what happened with Yuvan at Toronto. Actually made contact on the opening lap with the wall coming out of 11. Hard contact. Jack Crawford was involved. Nolan Siegel was involved. And that really cut down the opening practice session at Toronto. I think they only had 5 minutes of green flag running, which made it tough, I think, on everybody. Coming down pit lane right now, the number 14 of Zach Holden from Greenfield, Illinois, running the Legacy Autosport machine. Holden puts 1 lap in the books, goes P4, 124.8, but again, very early on. His teammate, number 77, across the track, that's Timmy Paglioso. Tim in the number 77 machine, his debut here in USF 2000. He'll be busy actually on Sunday as one of the rear tire changers for Takuma Sato. So good to have Timmy out here with us. Again, Legacy Autosport, the number 77, giving Timmy a chance to get out here for his debut weekend.
Hunter McElroy, who was quickest in this morning session, has not yet come across the stripe. There he is, just clicking in his first lap. Braden Eves, the points leader, local driver from Gahanna, a suburb of Columbus, was only 7th quickest this morning, which is a bit of a surprise. So we'll see if Braden can find a little more pace in today's session.
And that's what we're going to look for. We're going to look for the potential speed improvement for Cape Motorsports. Remember, I think they were like 6th to 10th kind of a thing.
Yep.
You're going to see them kind of dial things back in. They didn't have the pace they wanted. Pabst Racing looked like they were very good coming out of the gate, so I would expect that Cape Motorsports will make some adjustments. Darren Keene was actually pretty decent this morning as well. He was P6. Winner as well from Toronto. Obviously getting the monkey off his back, as did Rasmussen, getting that first victory in the record books, which always makes things a little easier. But then again, talking to both those drivers, that first win's always big, but you want to get the second one. Cameron, you probably say the same thing. That first win on the oval, it's awesome. You feel good about it, but then it just makes you hungry and have more pressure for the next one.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And for me, after the oval, we won on the oval. That was awesome, but it was really about focusing and then coming back and trying to win on a road course as well. They're two totally different disciplines. And for us, we knew we could succeed. We knew we could get the job done and win the race. So from there on in, it was about building and developing and trying to get the race win on a road course.
You did have a good run at Road America as well. I think you're on the podium in race 1 at Road America as well. So again, Cameron putting down good results. We'll hopefully see him back again on track in Portland, but we'll definitely use his knowledge here in the PA booth for this qualifying session. Rasmussen P1, 123 flat. Still a ways to go. Yeah, we're a second and a half off what they did earlier. Darren Keene will bring the number 2 machine into pit lane. Now, this will be interesting whether or not they think they go for rubber, because we talked about the fact that we weren't going to see many changes. Keene obviously not happy with the race car. I would have to say that's probably the key. He's coming in here now to make an adjustment. We'll keep a good look out. He's all the way down the far end of pit lane. John will bring up the binoculars again.
Rusty Bell back on the back straight. Go ahead, Rusty.
Again, Rusty Bell back straight away. What do you got back there, Rusty, for us?
There we go.
There you are.
Yeah, just wanted to make a comment. I can watch the cars here as they come out in the pit lane. I only saw one car that had stickers on the tires when they came out. Now, that's not to say that maybe some of these teams decide to take the stickers off the new tire before they come out, but typically they'll just leave that on. And I only saw one of our competitors that had the stickers still on the tire. That was Nolan Siegel. The rest of them, no stickers on the tires, at least at the start of the session.
Yeah, that's very interesting. As I said, they're not allowed to take those carryover tires, and we didn't. John, I don't think we saw anybody put fresh tires on the opening practice session. Nope. So yeah, potentially just those tires coming off. You can't scuff. So, well, you know what? When I go back to the paddock, I'll find out. I'll have a little discussion with a couple of the engineers to find out what the approach was. And Rusty, I'll try to give you some updates on that.
Christian Rasmussen, quick as I was just about to say, a 122.65.
Still a ways off.
Yeah, about a second off his time from this morning. But right there in the hunt is Hunter McElroy, as he is second quick.
Well, again, warmer, number 1.
Yep.
Number 2, different rubber. The Indy cars have been out here one time. Cameron, let's give us some input on that. You guys we're always first. USF 2000, first or second on the racetrack at any race weekend. Then IndyCar comes out. How much different is the racetrack before and after IndyCar rubber going down?
It really does change a lot. I mean, you can physically see it when you're in the car. There's a black spot and there's a gray spot. And typically they do run a very different line to us.
Yeah.
And we see that a lot straight away on the street circuits. I mean, Toronto is a great example. We're out there. It was very dusty. It was very dirty and very slippery. So as soon as they started going out, laying down some rubber, the line changed a little bit, and that gave us more grip. We got more feedback from the car as well, and that's when we can really start working and pushing forward.
So that's the thing there. Do you have to change your line a little bit based on where the rubber is? Would you do that?
Yeah, that certainly does happen. I mean, that can depend on the temperature as well. When it's cold, you might actually want to try and use that rubber a little bit more. When it's hot, sometimes you might want to try and get off that a little bit. So it's always just pushing the car. It's very similar to driving in the wet. There's always one spot with more grip than where you just drove. So you're just trying to find where the limit is, where the grip is, where it's not.
Cameron Shields from Newman Walks Racing joining us here in the booth today at Mid-Ohio, qualifying for the opening race of the doubleheader here in the Cooper Tires USF 2000 Championship. My name is Rob Howden, joined by John Fippen and Rusty Bell out on the circuit. Hunter McElroy, who was quickest in the opening practice session, back to P1 in the Pabst Racing number 22. In fact, Pabst Racing 1, 2, 3, 4. That is tough. They have a great setup right now on these cars. McElroy 1:22.1. He's 4 10,000ths of a second? 4 10,000ths of a second quicker than Yuven Sundaramoorthy, his teammate. Bruno Tomaselli third, Colin Kaminsky in the fourth spot. Jack Crawford now in the fifth position. In sixth is Jack Crawford. Seventh, Braden Eves. As Manuel Suleiman's jumped up. Let me update that. Suleiman in the D-Force Racing number 12 has gone to P4. I got to expect now, John, we're going to start seeing time start to fall. Everybody's starting to kind of get things going with their tires here.
First driver into the 121s, McElrea, as 121.8344 for Hunter McElrea, and that's just about 0.4 of a second off his time from this morning. So you're right. I think once these, with the tires now coming into their sweet spot, we're going to see these times start to tumble pretty dramatically.
8.5 minutes still remaining in this session. Quickest driver out of the Cape Motorsports camp is now Braden Eves. He is 9th spot. And what else we got? We've got Reese Gold in 14th. Darren Keene back in 16th. He came into pit lane and has got back out.
Yeah.
So wait for Keene to throw a lap down here pretty soon. Jack Crawford running with Cape Motorsports. He's moved over from D-Force. Bruna Tomaselli now. The young lady in the number 24 from Brazil. The only female driver this year in the road, Dandy. Bruna Tomaselli goes to P1. 17 10,000ths of a second quicker than her teammate Hunter McElrea. Tomaselli in the 24, a 121.8327.
And that's a pretty good jump for about 0.2 of a second quicker than she ran in this morning's practice. McElrea's time is just a couple tenths slower than he ran this morning, so biggest improvement for Bruna Tomaselli. Great run for her.
Darren Keene's first out lap after coming into pit lane and making an adjustment moves him up to the 12th position, a 122.7, just about 0.9 of a second behind. Colin Kaminsky now moves to third. Yuven Sundaramoorthy now in fourth spot, so it's still a all Pabst Racing 1, 2, 3, 4. They'll dominate the opening two rows if it finishes where it is. Jack Crawford for Cape Motorsports has now gone to fifth. Crawford just 14 years of age out of Houston, Texas. Crawford in the number 4 machine. He has gone to P5, 0.3 of a second back. Sixth is Matt Round-Garrido coming off a podium finish in Toronto. Braden Eves, your point leader, in 7th. Eduardo Barrichello from Miller Vinatieri Motorsports in 8th. Manuel Suleiman in 9th, and Christian Rasmussen, winner from Toronto, now in the 10th spot. Tomaselli's gone quicker, 121.772. Tomaselli now 0.06 of a second quicker than McElrea and 0.08 of a second quicker than Kaminsky. Now, with 6.5 minutes to go, Cameron Shields, give me this input. Can you feel the car really starting to come in when it gets better? And it's when you're getting better by 1/10 at a time. Can you feel 1/10 of a second that you're getting faster?
Yes, I would say you can, and you'll be getting to that point in the session right now where the car's there, the tire's there. You've probably got about a 2 or 3 lap window, and you're just trying to minimize the mistakes and maximize what the car has right now. So there's going to be, I think they're in the window now. They're getting around to the time. They're sort of floating and flirting with that time. Like Hunter just went P1 just now, and within 1/10 of what he just did. So, I mean, they're getting down to the crunch time, and it's about maximizing everything you've got, minimizing the mistakes, and getting the best result you can.
One of the words you hear to the IndyCar drivers all the time is extracting the most out of their tires. They know when they get to that window, when the fuel level's coming down, the tire pressure's perfect. It's getting to that point where the tire temps are where they need to be. You need open racetrack. It's all about extracting the most out of the tire on that particular run. Hunter McElrea, P1, 121.745. Bruna Tomaselli second, Colin Kaminsky third. Yuven Sundaramoorthy in the 4th spot, and Jack Crawford rounding out your top 5 right now. Crawford, the quickest driver in Cape Motorsports, but John, it's a Pabst Racing top 4.
Indeed it is. Tom Michaels takes his position out at turn 9. Good morning, Tom. Afternoon.
Yeah.
Whatever
it is.
it is.
To get up here, but it is absolutely gorgeous out here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for all the rain that we saw earlier in the year. This is the third event I've been to this year, and again, beautiful skies ahead. I'll tell you what, this is going to be just an absolutely competitive and fun and colorful weekend for everybody who comes out here to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Not only the Indy cars, but right now seeing the Road to Indy cars and those Robbie Gordon trucks. That's going to be a lot of fun. So looking forward to the whole weekend with the whole gang.
Jack Crawford bringing his number 4 machine into pit lane, currently P6. Hunter McElrea went quicker again at 121.5. Not quite as quick as he did this morning, about 1/10 off, and still over 1.3 seconds off of the current track record. We're not going to get anywhere close to that now with just 4.5 minutes remaining. Point leader Braden Eves back in 9th position. He comes in with a 53-point lead or something to that effect. A pretty solid
41.
lead. 53 over Keene, 41 over McElray. So a 41-point lead. He will not be happy, though, being P9. This is a guy that's won 5 races this year, expects to be a lot faster, and this is qualifying. We're not talking practice. We are qualifying right now, 4 minutes to go, and this is where this grid is going to set up. And as it stands, Pabst Racing thus far having locked out the front 2 rows. McElray. No, now Christian Rasmussen in the Jay Howard driver development number 6 goes to P2.
Eves goes up 1 spot into 8th in the 8 car, a 22.180, but still not the kind of pace he needs to be on the pole. That's still about half a tenth off the time he turned in this morning's practice session.
Yeah, and a half a second off the fast lap as well here by Hunter McElray. But Cameron talked about the fact that you're going to get that window where you're trying to work your way in here. You're trying to put the lap down. You're being focused. You got to make sure you hit everything bang on. McElray, Rasmussen, Sundaramurthy, Tomaselli, and Kaminsky top 5. Matt Round-Garrido now up to 6th. Suleiman in 7th, Crawford 8th, Eves 9th, Keene in 10th. So this is definitely a kind of a topsy-turvy grid that we've seen so far this year. We've always seen the Cape Motorsports drivers up and in the fight. Suleiman's been up there as well. So trying to see how things are going to shake down. Timmy Pagliuso in the number 77 debut weekend has found at least a second. He is about 5.5 seconds off last run, only 4.2 off now. So he continues to get more pace. Good job for Pagliuso. Less than 2 seconds separate the top 16. But again, with just 2.5 minutes remaining, Hunter McElray looking good here for the pole position. Remember, 41 points back, John?
Yep.
41 points back of the point leader, Braden Eves, who needs to find some speed, as does Darren Keene. They are 9th and 10th right now. 1st and 3rd in the point will start at this point on row 5. That's a long way back.
Indeed it is. And on a track that is not easy to pass on with these equally prepared cars, that's going to be a tall order to get to the top.
Cameron, you've been in a lot of battles throughout this year. You've started up front. You started near kind of the middle of the field as well. It's hard to pass at this racetrack, but it's just hard to pass in this series as it is.
I mean, it is certainly very tough to pass, purely the fact everyone is very fast.
Yeah.
So
it's so equal.
Exactly. It's so equal. I mean, we're always seeing the majority of the field within a second. So it's super close. When you're out there in the race, everyone's pushing as hard as you can, and you have to then go off the natural racing line to make a move. So as it is, you're getting a disadvantage by doing that, and you've got to go faster than them. So, I mean, it is really tough. Road America, for example, a lot of big, long straights. So there was a lot of slipstreaming opportunities, and it saw a lot of great racing. Here at Mid-Ohio, there's a mixture of stuff. We've got a lot of really tight sections down the back where it's going to be tough to pass, but that's where there's going to be mistakes as well. But then at the first half of the lap, we got long straights. We got a long run down to turn 4.
No doubt about that, yeah.
A big opportunity there for drivers to be slipstreaming past their opponents.
24 of Bruno Tomaselli into pit lane. That's going to be it for her. A minute left in this session. In fact, here come the Pabst cars. A 21 of Sundaramurthy as well. Sundaramurthy in 3rd. Tomaselli in 4th. McElray still P1, over a tenth quicker than Christian Rasmussen. Kaminsky 5th, Matt Round-Garrido 6th, Suleiman 7th. Crawford leading the way for the drivers in Cape Motorsports. He's 8th, Eves is 9th, Keene 10th, and Reese Golden 15th position. So not the qualifying we normally see at a Cape Motorsports. Less than a minute remaining, make that less than 30 seconds remaining in qualifying for USF 2000. Indy Lights drivers will be up next for their qualifying run.
McElray and Rasmussen still out on track, as are Colin Kaminsky and Matt Round-Garrido. So,
and John, nobody doing anything right now, time-wise.
Exactly. Yeah, the times have fallen off.
Cameron talked about that window. We seem to be outside that window right now.
Yeah, I think we've gone past it.
Yeah, I would certainly say so. I think they've just had that window now. You're going to have one more opportunity. I'd say what a lot of the drivers are doing, they're going to be slowing down, cooling the tires off, getting good track position, and if they're feeling really keen, they're going to be trying to set up a toe for the back straight as well. So that's what they're going to be looking at doing, and I can see some of the times are a couple seconds off. So I would imagine a few more minutes to go, that's what they're aiming to do.
Checkers are out. Braden Eves comes across the line. No improvement. He'll stay 9th. Darren Keene, his teammate, will stay 10th. Zach Holden back in 11th spot in the 14 car.
I always say Mid-Ohio is that kind of turning point weekend in this program, and this is definitely big for Hunter McElroy and potentially damaging as well for Braden Eves back in the 9th position. He'll have work to do in the race for sure. The 14 is Zach Holden coming in. He ends up in 11th spot. Does anybody have any more speed? Can Rasmussen throw one down? He does not. Does a 121.9, does not go any quicker. And it appears to me, unless Crawford does it, no. Hunter McElroy is going to score the pole position for race number 1 of the doubleheader here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. The Cooper Tires USF 2000 Championships opening qualifying session done and in the books. Hunter McElroy, 0.144 seconds quicker than Christian Rasmussen. So it'll be the Pabst Racing driver from New Zealand on the pole in the 22. Rasmussen second, Yuven Sundaramurthy in third, Tomaselli fourth, and Colin Kaminsky fifth. So all four Pabst drivers in the Fast Five. Matt Round-Garrido for BN Racing in 6th spot. Manuel Suleiman for D-Force Racing in 7th. Then you got the Cape drivers 8th, 9th, and 10th. Jack Crawford, Braden Eves, and Darren Keene. Interesting qualifying session. I know you'd like to be in it, Cameron Shields, but that's kind of a surprise, right?
It certainly is. It's certainly shaken up the championship now. It's given Hunter a great shot to try and beat Braden to that end-of-year prize. And Braden right now, he's certainly got his work cut out. Not only is he starting 9th, so he's got a lot of cars to pass to try and beat Hunter, but also that's where a lot of things happen. On that first lap, you'll be pretty nervous going into turn 2.
Kind of danger zone-y, right? That's a tough place to be, right in the middle of the field going into turn 1, and of course into the keyhole as well. Cameron, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate that. We'll see if we can get Cameron back again for qualifying number 2. Did a great job with us. John, this is going to be interesting.
Indeed it is.
The race is going to be good for sure.
Yeah, looking forward to it as we've got some of the front runners starting a little deeper in the pack, Darren Keene and Braden Eves among them. So be curious to see if they can work their way toward the front.
There's your top 10, folks. Hunter McElroy and Christian Rasmussen will be on the front row for race number 1. Yuven Sundaramurthy and Bruno Tomaselli on row 2. Colin Kaminsky alongside the Englishman Matt Round-Garrido on row 3. Manuel Suleiman and Jack Crawford, a couple of drivers who have raced together before against each other down in the F4 Mexican program, the NACAM series. They'll start on row 4. And the teammates, 1st and 3rd in the points, teammates at Cape Motorsports, Braden Eves and Darren Keene, launching from row number 5. Lots of qualifying still to come here on the road to Indy. 1 of 6 qualifying sessions still is done, 5 still to go. Indy Lights drivers will roll those cars out here momentarily, folks. Indy Lights qualifying for race number 1 up next.
It's a gorgeous South Florida morning here at the Palm Beach International. Perfect setting to test out the new Cooper Xeon RS3 G1 tires.
It's a pretty brave move to put these tires on straight-up race cars.
The race truck is the perfect scenario for this particular tire.
All day they were great, super predictable on the breakaway.
The tires, they seem like they have a lot of grip. You'll get a lot of use out of the tires.
For 15 seasons, the Castrol Toyota Racing Series has led the way in New Zealand motorsport. With 170 drivers and 276 races so far, the graduates have made their mark in international motor racing. This is the pathway for the world's young drivers. And this series hits the racetracks of New Zealand for 5 weeks every year on the quest to find the next world champion.
Parker Thompson, Kyle Kirkwood, 1,
All three series on the road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires invaded the picturesque Road America facility in June, taking to the challenging 4.1-mile, 14-turn circuit that they refer to as America's National Park of Speed. Juncos Racing's Rinus VeeKay dominated the speed charts all weekend in the Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tires, scoring the pole for both races of the doubleheader. At the start of race 1 on Sunday, VeeKay showed the only chink in his armor, going 4 wheels off on his first run through the very challenging Turn 7, bringing the car back under control as Andretti Autosport's Robert McGinnis attacked to capitalize on the error. VeeKay defended aggressively to his left, which was dealt with swiftly by the race stewards, who issued the Dutch driver a stiff drive-through penalty. With the track clear, Andretti veteran Ryan Norman took control and would drive off to a 4.6-second victory over McGinnis. Wisconsin native Aaron Tiedlitz was back with Belardi Auto Racing at Road America and delivered an impressive run to third. VeeKay rebounded on Sunday, dominating the action from start to finish, posting his third win of the year, joining his victories at St. Petersburg and the IndyCar GP weekend at IMS. Freedom 100 winner Oliver Askew improved on his fifth-place finish from Saturday to complete the podium in third on Sunday. The Indy Pro 2000 field continues to develop, and Parker Thompson and his Able Motorsports team rebounded from a couple of challenging outings to qualify on pole for race number 1. Once the race went green, RP Motorsports' Kyle Kirkwood was immediately on the charge from his P3 starting spot, taking the lead early and dominating the action. And by the time the checkered flag flew, RP Motorsport was rewarded with their best race since joining the Road to Indy last year, finishing first and second with Guatemala's Ian Rodriguez taking his first podium in only his second race weekend. Thompson fought hard for a crucial third-place result, finishing ahead of point leader Rasmus Lint to close the gap in the title chase. On Sunday, Juncos Racing's Lint led from pole, but Kirkwood would not be denied as he made a strong move under braking into the downhill Turn 5, controlling the apex to grab hold of the lead. From there, the 2018 USF 2000 champion simply managed the gap ahead of Lint, completing the sweep of the Road America weekend after 15 clean and consistent laps. Thompson once again drove himself onto the podium, moving to second in the title fight as a result. The Cooper Tires USF 2000 Championship celebrated a new victor in Race 1 as Mazda Scholarship winner Hunter McElroy of New Zealand took the lead in the early going from his Pabst Racing teammate and pole sitter Colin Kaminsky. Jetting out from the rest of the field with McElroy, Kaminsky carded his second consecutive podium finish to come home ahead of Newman Walks Racing's Cameron Shields. Sunday's race was all Eves as Braden and Cape Motorsports rose to the top of the order, passing McElroy for the lead before pulling away. Eves finished over 4 seconds ahead of his Cape teammate Darren Keene, who turned the fastest lap of the race to score his second podium finish of the year. McElroy hung on to a spot in the top 3, finishing off a positive weekend in which he cut the gap on Eves ever so slightly. The series has reached the halfway point, and the championships will now begin to tighten, with just 5 race weekends still left on the 2019 schedule. Victorious at Mid-Ohio. Smart coming through that corner.
Hi, my name is Darren Keene. I'm from Boca Raton, Florida. I'm currently racing in the USF 2000 Championships in the Cape Motorsports number 2. I'm from Boca Raton, Florida. I was born there. Apart from my whole life, obviously, I lived in England for 2 years, from when I was 14 to 16. And I karted over there a bunch, and I was just trying to improve my racing craft and stuff like that. I feel like as a kid growing up in England, you have a lot more freedom. Not like rights-based, obviously, but my parents wouldn't let me like walk to the park or like walk to the store wherever, living in Florida, but in England, that's just the normal. So I would walk to school, which is like probably like a 25-minute walk, like walk to the park, hang out with my friends. Outside of racing, I really like anything like outside related, pretty much. Being in Florida, we have nice weather the whole year. So a lot of boating, fishing. I go skimboarding at the beach. I really like board related stuff at school, like I longboard around to get to class and stuff like that. I think my favorite racetrack to this date is probably Watkins Glen. I'm pretty upset that it's not on the schedule anymore, but I'm really excited for Toronto. Like, I always just love street courses, especially one like Toronto, because it's just like, you know, a minute and 10 seconds of like manhandling the car. Follow me on the road to Indy this year at Darren_Keen25 on Instagram and Twitter, and Darren Keen Racing on Facebook.
Harrison Scott crossing the yard of bricks. Huge wreck.
Road to Indy, story of the moment.
As we leave the Kettle Moraine region of Wisconsin, there are two stories that stand out. Great team results and Soul Red winners. USF 2000 stalwarts Pabst Racing from nearby Economowoc and their drivers Hunter McElray and Colin Kaminsky scored one win, stood on the podium 3 times, and collected 4 top 5s in their home race. Sophomore team RP Motorsport, with rookie drivers Kyle Kirkwood and Ian Rodriguez, visited Victory Lane twice. Andretti Autosport, with threesome Ryan Norman, Oliver Askew, and Robert McGinnis, had 1 win and 4 podiums in a successful visit to Sheboygan County. For the first time since the 2017 season opening event in St. Petersburg, all 3 cars featuring the Soul Red livery of the Mazda Advancement Scholarship winner visited Victory Lane on the same weekend. On Saturday, it was Road to Indy $200,000 shootout winner McElray winning his first USF 2000 race, and reigning USF 2000 champ Kirkwood winning his first Indy Pro 2000 race. Kirkwood went back to Victory Lane on Sunday and was joined by Juncos Racing Indy Lights rookie Rinus VeeKay, the reigning Indy Pro 2000 champion.
Boy, look at this freight train as down the Lucas chimes down to the inside. 3 wide through turn 4. Something's gotta give.
Road to Indy, beyond the grid.
Hi, my name is Nikita Lastichkin. I'm from Russia, Moscow, and I live in Los Angeles. And I also drive for Exclusive Autosport, car number 90, Indy Pro 2000. I'm from Russia originally, but I moved to California when I was 16. Yeah, it's been pretty wild. What can I say? Living in Los Angeles for about 10 years now, I have a lot of history with the city, and I always thought it would be super awesome to just run through the entire city with all the streets closed out. You know, I've been planning to do this for a couple of years, and I ran a full marathon at under 4 hours. It's just an amazing experience. When I'm not at the racetrack, if I'm not doing something racing related, I'm trying to do anything so I'm not thinking about racing. So perhaps traveling. I like taking road trips, going to museums. I like reading books. I like playing video games. So fun stuff like that. I married my wife quite a few years ago, and she's amazing, and probably the best decision I made in my life, and have yet to regret it. It's been great. Little did we know, we actually discovered that we used to live across the street from each other back in Moscow, which is a huge city, 12 or 15 million people, something like that. And yeah, we used to live across the street. Follow me on Road to Indy, and you can follow me on my Facebook, Instagram, Nikita Goes Racing, And on Twitter, Nikita Goes Racing, but that's because there's not enough characters, not because I'm a gangster.
Fun out here. This group of cars, the Indy Lights, just sort of setting the table for what we're going to see here in another 20 minutes, but certainly a different style car. Good to see the USF 2000 sort of lead us off here this afternoon in their qualifying session. So looking forward to these as we keep moving up the ladder just a little bit, and these cars pretty quick out here. We'll see the lap times here in just a couple of minutes as they're able to put some lap times down, but it was good to see the cars in practice this morning, and now we're out in qualifying. Looking forward to seeing what kind of lap times we can get.
Tom Michaels out at turn number 9, the entrance to Thunder Valley. Always a great place to watch the racing. Good afternoon, Tom.
Hey, John, and as you say, it's a great place to watch the racing. It's kind of the big secret here of Mid-Ohio, but coming off turn number 6 to 7, then through 8 and 9, a lot of the folks camping over there. Great job by the Mid-Ohio crew here. That part of the track was not inhabitable earlier here in the spring and the early summer because of all the rain that we had. But it looks to me like every bit of this race course is now back to its normal condition here. It's been great that we've had some good weather. The one thing that I noticed, John, with all the rain, we've had some trees that have actually sprouted out a little bit more, and we may have to get somebody out here to prune it so I can see the bottom of Thunder Valley.
Well, sorry to hear that your sight lines may be obscured a little bit there, Tom.
Little compromise.
Yeah, whatever. But it's nice to have the greenery for sure.
You're
Rinus VeeKay was quickest in this morning's session, as we mentioned, a 1:12.1358. Oliver Askew second quick, about half a tenth back, and then about 0.2 of a second back to Dalton Kellett aboard the number 67 machine for Juncos Racing. And then David Malukas was fourth fastest aboard the number 79. David out of Chicago, racing for BN Racing. Rounding out the top 5 was Robert McGinnis aboard the number 27. Robert from New York City for Andretti in the Cyber Security Dallara. As we ride along, if you could see the big screens from your vantage point, we ride along with David Malukas as he made his way up into fourth in that session this morning. Ryan Norman fires the first shot in this session, but it's still well off the pace. We're going to see here in a few more laps, a 1:18 and some change. Toby Sowery in the yellow number 2, the British driver out of Cambridge in the Great Britain for BN Racing and Team Pelfrey. Comes the 67 down the pit lane. That's Dalton Kellett out of Toronto, making his home in Indianapolis at the moment for Juncos Racing, as he does an installation lap and stops down to let his crew have a look. Oliver Askew just now setting off on his first timed lap, so we'll see if he's got anything for Rinus VeeKay. The points battle, Askew in front of VeeKay by 25 points, but with 33 points on offer and with 7 races yet to go, we're just past the halfway point of the season, so there's plenty of room for drivers to make to move up. In fact, of the 10 drivers who've competed in the championship this year, all of them are still mathematically in the hunt for the championship, so it is not a runaway by any means, although Oliver Askew does have the most wins with 5 podium finishes and 4 pole positions, giving him 285 points to lead the group. But Rinus VeeKay with 4 podiums and 3 wins and 3 pole positions, only 25 points back. That's less than a full race's distance. Another 38 back is Ryan Norman, the driver with some Ohio roots for Andretti Motorsport. Ryan makes his home in Aurora, which is a suburb of Cleveland. Robert McGinnis, 4th in the points, only 4 behind Ryan Norman. So those two Andretti teammates battling. Interestingly, Andretti has 3 of the top 4 in the championship hunt at this just past midway point. Toby Sowery and David Malukas, the BN teammates, 5th and 6th in the points. And then Dalton Kellett, he is Rinus VeeKay's teammate on the Juncos team. And then the 2 Belardi teammates, Lucas Cole and Aaron Telitz, rounding out the championship. Aaron Telitz with a win this year, as he took a win at the first round at Toronto, has another podium at Road America, but did not compete in the first half dozen rounds of the championship. So he's come to the championship late in the running and had good success. So he's mounting a charge here. But he's got his work cut out for him. He's going to have to continue winning if he's going to challenge for the championship. Robert McGinnis now in the top spot, a 1:13.8062. The only driver under a minute 14 in the early going here. Aaron Telitz, who we were just talking about, second quick by about 0.3 of a second. Ryan Norman, another 10th back in third. Oliver Askew jumps up to fourth with his first flying lap, a 1:14.4. Once again, still a couple seconds off the kind of pace we expect to see as this session wears on.
This morning we saw Rinus VeeKay when he was out for practice. I know he was off at least twice that I know of in the brief time I was watching from the S's a bit before I made my way out here to the back straightaway, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. Not typical of VeeKay, but a little unusual to see that car off track 2 different times in one session.
Rinus VeeKay out of the Netherlands for Juncos Racing. A rookie in the series this year for the Indy Lights. Of course, he's been a mainstay in the other 2 steps of the ladder. In fact, the scholarship winner to carry the sole red car into Indy Lights competition this year. Robert McGinnis has taken over the top spot, and just as I say that, Oliver Askew comes across the timing line, and our points leader is now the quickest car with a 1:12.93. He's the first driver under a minute 13 in this session. Still about almost a full second off the quick times we saw this morning, but as we saw in the USF 2000 session just concluded, the track probably not giving up quite as much pace as it was in the cool of the morning. As we can see some of our Mid-Ohio rookie racers in their Sweet Treat Social. That's one of their special treats here this weekend is they're on the victory podium, waving to all the crowd. The Rookie Racers program, really popular here at Mid-Ohio. I had a chance to interview a couple of our rookie racers during our last race meeting for the Vintage Motorcycle Days, as they get some special opportunities throughout the course of each race weekend to meet the drivers and get kind of an inside look at how the racing happens here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. So if you've got a youngster who would like to become one of the rookie racers, just stop by any of the souvenir stands. There's a great swag bag that they get, and get them signed up for the Rookie Racers program. Askew continues to set the pace, a 1:12.3 on his last lap. He's about a half a second clear of Robert McGinnis, who has a 1:12.8. Ryan Norman about a 10th back at a 1:12.9. Those 3, the only ones under a minute 13 so far. Rinus VeeKay, who set the pace this morning, is 4th quick. And just as I say that, he joins the 1:12 club and bumps Ryan Norman down to 4th. He's up to 3rd. So it's Askew, McGinnis, VeeKay, and Norman as your top 4. Dalton Kellett in the 5th spot. TV crew giving us a good ride with David Malukas aboard the 79 car as he comes across start-finish and through turn number 1. You can see just how hard he's working the wheel to put that car right now in 7th position. He's about a 2 2/10 off the ultimate pace, but only 3/10 behind Dalton Kellett, just ahead of him in 6th. We have a spinner, and just trying to get the identity of that car here in just a second. It's off just outside of my vision, behind a post here. But one of the, I think it's one of the Bilardi cars off at the exit of the carousel turn. And it is car number 4, and he is high-centered, sadly. That is Aaron Telitz. And he is off to driver's left, just past the apex of the carousel turn. And the car is high-centered. We can see him spinning the rear tires, unable to move. So I'm guessing we're going to see a red flag, and we do, to recover Aaron Telitz's car. Fortunately, he's right there by the dispatch area, so they'll be able to get a course vehicle out there and lickety-split In fact, here comes one of the AMR safety trucks already on the scene. And it'll be a quick extraction to get Aaron Telitz back underway. So to review, it is the usual suspects at the front. Oliver Askew, our points leader, is quickest so far, a 1:12.212, as he is the provisional pole sitter with just about 19 minutes remaining in this session, so plenty of time left to go. Rinus VeeKay, second in the points, second on the road in this session by about 0.3 of a second with a 1:12.56. Third is Dalton Kellett. Kellett back in seventh in the points championship, but he's third on the road in this session, a 1:12.7, about 0.2 behind VeeKay. Then less than a tenth back is Robert McGinnis in the number 27 car. McGinnis out of New York for Andretti in that 4 spot. And then rounding out the top 5 is Ohio driver Ryan Norman aboard the number 48, 67/10,000ths of a second behind Robert McGinnis. So third, fourth, and fifth separated by well under a tenth of a second. Aaron Telitz, who brought out the red flag, will lose his fastest lap because of that infraction. He is currently 6th quickest and may drop down to a little lower than that, but still got plenty of time to make it up. David Malukas, Lucas Cole, and Toby Sowery are your top 2 as we get a replay of the spin from Aaron Telitz, and just a little late on the brakes as he turned in. The rear got away from him, looped it just at the turn-in point there at the carousel turn, and backed it gently into the grass, and unfortunately got high-centered on the curbing there and wasn't able to drive forward under his own power. But the AMR safety crew already on the scene, got the car hooked up and got it onto the pavement. So Aaron Telitz should be able to get back underway here momentarily, and we should be able to get back to green flag running for this first qualifying session for the Cooper Tires Indy Lights. Yeah, Telitz's car is rolling, and he's going to make it right into the pit entrance. So the track is clear of competitive cars. We just need to get the AMR safety vehicle back to its staging lane here at turn 11. That'll be a quick trip, so we should be back to green momentarily. Telitz's car doesn't look any worse for wear for his trip into the grass. The Honda Civic Type R, experiencing the heart racing thrills of the Civic Type R from the crew at Honda, a proud sponsor of the NTT IndyCar Series. Attention race fans, get your car or race car ready for the track. Do you have things around the house, shop, or ranch that need welding? Look no further, weld it with Lincoln Welders. Lincoln Electric is your choice when it comes to welding equipment, cutting equipment, and safety apparel. Go to LincolnElectric.com for more information on welding machines and accessories you may need to get the job done. And remember to hashtag WeldRed with all your product. Track is green once again as the session continues with about 16 minutes remaining, so not quite to half distance. We'll be to get back up to speed. Next on the agenda after this qualifying session will be the second practice session for the NTT IndyCar Series drivers. As